Final chapter. The House Without Walls. Winter returned with less drama this time. It arrived like someone who had already argued with everyone in the room last year and was trying a new approach. The cold pressed but did not bite as sharply. The pipes groaned but did not break. The shelter's heaters held. Inside, Malsun's home carried the warm chaos of a place used to surviving. Children grew taller. Staff grew more efficient at telling serious emergencies from routine panic. The second foundation survived its first full year of audits and appeals. Its bank account wobbled but did not fall. Some donors stopped giving when their names did not appear on anything. Others started for exactly the same reason. By the end of the year, House 1 had one renovated floor, 2 tenants referred directly from the shelter, and a waiting list that stretched longer than the corridor. The law firm sent another letter, less sharp. This time, acknowledging ongoing efforts to enhance asset utility. They learned our language, Sujin said. Or we learned theirs. Both, replied Yoon Jung. Translation is a two-way street. On the anniversary of the shelter's inspection, the city sent a certificate with a blue seal. It said nothing poetic, only that Malsun's home was in good standing and compliant with all relevant regulations. The children were unimpressed. The adults were quietly relieved. That evening, instead of a formal celebration, they played a game. Yoon Jung wrote questions on small slips of paper and placed them in a bowl. The children took turns drawing one and answering. What is the warmest thing you know? What is something you thought would break you, but didn't? What does home smell like? The answers were contradictory and magnificent. Ramen. A blanket. When my mom came back. When my dad didn't. Laundry. Disinfectant. Rain in the stairwell. One girl, asked what inheritance meant, thought for a long time before answering. It's something that keeps going even when you stop holding it, she said at last. No one corrected her. Later that night, after the children slept, the siblings gathered on the roof one more time. Winter stars pricked the sky like careful punctuation. Their breath rose and vanished in small clouds. What now? Asked Sejun. He had, almost without noticing, become part of the core. His visits had turned into shifts. His shifts into responsibilities. His responsibilities into a life. He no longer asked if he belonged. He asked what needed doing next. Now we keep going, said Sujin. That's not a plan, he said. It's the only one Mother ever had, replied Kyeolsu. And look where it got us. He gestured at the shelter, House 1, the faint lights of the river path. Tired, overworked, underpaid, and strangely unwilling to quit. A more detailed plan would be helpful, said Yoon Jung. She opened the living register. Its pages were nearly full. The early entries, written in her careful uncertainty, had given way to a faster, more confident hand. Names had become stories. Stories had become patterns. Patterns had become policies. Read something, said Maya Ongho. She read aloud. Trust is recovering. Slowly. Min Jae no longer checks the door 3 times before sleeping. Laughed for the first time in 3 months when someone burned the rice. And we all had to eat it anyway. 3 women left this week. 2 to jobs. 1 to a man we do not trust. We will be here when she comes back. The river is high again. So are our worries. Both have stayed within their banks so far. She closed the notebook gently. I've been thinking, she said. This book is almost finished. Time for volume 2? Asked Sejun. Maybe, she said. But I don't want the next book to be mine alone. I want the staff to write in it. The women. Some of the older kids. Different handwriting. Living register, revised edition, said Sujin. Living register, corrected Yoon Jung. Released from being my private account book. They stood quietly. The air was cold, but not cruel. Do you remember, asked Maya Ongho, how scared we were when we first heard the words 3 houses in the lawyer's office? Yes, said Sujin. I thought it was a curse disguised as generosity. It was, said Yoon Jung. At first. And now? Asked Sejun. Now it's less about buildings, she said. More about practice. What kind of practice? The practice of not keeping everything we can, she replied. A few days later, they held a small ceremony no one had requested. They invited the residents who happened to be present that week, the staff on shift, a handful of neighbors who had quietly helped with groceries over the months, the tenant from House 1 who fixed his own plumbing and everyone else's. They did not invite the media. They did not print a banner. In the shelter's common room, under fluorescent lights that flickered occasionally, they placed 3 wooden chairs side by side. On each chair, they laid an object. On the first a worn key ring, heavy, with the assorted keys to all the old locks on all the old doors of all 3 houses. On the second the kettle that had belonged to Kim Mal-sun, still dented, still functional. On the third the living register, its pages full, its cover softened by use. Yoonjung cleared her throat. She had never liked speeches, but the room waited. "These are the things we inherited," she said. "Not the only things, but the ones we can touch." She held up the keyring. "This is for rooms." She lifted the kettle. "This is for meals." She rested her hand on the notebook. "This is for the stories we refuse to lose. None of these belong to us alone anymore," she went on. "They belong to whoever needs them next. The foundation is not a family heirloom. It's a door we're holding open until someone else is ready to take the handle." A young boy raised his hand. "Can I hold the keys?" he asked. Everyone laughed softly. "Not all of them at once," said Kilsu. "But yes, maybe start with the pantry." The boy marched forward, solemn as an appointed guardian, and lifted the keyring with both hands. It was heavy, but he did not complain. A woman stepped forward next and touched the kettle. "I'll make tea," she said, for those who were waiting. Finally, Yoonjung set the living register on a table with a pen beside it. "Anyone who wants to," she said, "can write something. Not just staff." "Anyone." "What do we write?" someone asked. "Whatever you want us to remember," she replied. The first entry, in a careful, unfamiliar hand, read, "Today I believed I could stay somewhere longer than my fear." The second said, "I broke a plate." No one shouted, "I still don't understand how that's possible." The third was from a neighbor who had never entered the building before that day. "I thought this place was only for people who had lost everything. Now I see it is also for those of us who have more than we know what to do with." That night, after everyone left, after the floor was swept and the last cup washed, Yoonjung brought the register to the roof. The others were already there, as if summoned by habit. "How does it feel," asked Sujin, "to let other people write in your book?" "Terrifying," she said. "And correct." She added one last line in her own handwriting, small at the bottom of the page. "We are no longer keeping accounts alone." She closed the cover. Below, the shelter glowed in the dark, a modest, persistent square of light. House 1 stood nearby, still learning its new role. House 3 continued its quiet, practical work of paying for what hearts alone could not. Beyond all of them, the river moved as it always had, indifferent to wills and letters and the fragile paperwork of human promises. It did not keep accounts. It did not balance ledgers. It carried what it was given and kept going. So did they. Not perfectly. Not without fear. Not without mistakes. But forward. And in the end, that was the only inheritance worth defending. A movement that refused to stop at the edge of any one house. The end. Author's note. This story began with 3 houses, but it was never about walls or keys. It was about the invisible thread that binds a family, even after time and loss have torn them apart. If you have ever missed your mother's voice in the quiet, this book is for you. May it remind you that love is not something we own, but something we keep building, room by room, heart by heart. About the author. Cinnamon Tree writes stories that blend quiet emotion with everyday grace. Through gentle language and cinematic rhythm, their works explore family, memory, and the invisible inheritance of love that passes between generations. They believe the smallest act of care can be a form of legacy, and that every story, like every tree, grows stronger when its roots remember where they came from.